Okay, kids, it's time for another episode of the Fueled by Weird podcast, the only podcast that knows how many licks it takes to get to the center of a Tootsie Pop. I'm Chris Daly, and today I have the pleasure of chatting with my friend Danny J. Quick. Danny, how's it going, man?
Chris, man, I'm doing good, man. It's a little hot here in North Carolina, but we're getting some rain right now, so it's okay.
Nice. Yeah, it's getting pretty warm here lately, but probably nowhere near as hot as where you guys are at.
It's the humidity, man. Like
Yeah.
the older I get, the more like I miss the young days when like the heat was in like I was impervious to heat when I was young. And my son, like I got on a hoodie right now, but my son will
Yeah.
wear a hoodie outside and just like for hours. And I'm like, bro, I don't understand. Hey,
For real, man, kids these days are a whole different breed, man.
right.
Nothing like when we were kids. It's crazy. All right, man. Well, most people aren't going to know, but you and I have been friends for a little while online. We've just never had the chance to talk face to face. So it's very good to be able to talk to you finally.
Yeah.
Um, so what I like to do with these, I like to start things off with an icebreaker question. So today's icebreaker question, have you ever locked yourself out of the house? If you have, you want to talk about it. Tell me what happened.
I have locked myself out of my house and out of my car before. It's one of those things that it's really just an inconvenience because you can call somebody to get back in, but
Yeah.
it's also like a life stopping experience too. It's like, bro, I can't get into my own house. I can't get into my own vehicle right now. I got
Yeah.
places to be. I got things to do, but I guess say luckily for me, I know how to get in my house now without the key. Just hopefully nobody else figures it out because because you can definitely get in this place if you really wanted to. But we got security measures in place for things like that. So I'll just
That's
say,
good. Yeah, man. I have the same experience with my car. I had it locked. I went to get something out of the trunk.
mm.
Was relieved to get the trunk open, just threw the keys in to the trunk for some reason,
Oh
grabbed stuff
man,
out of the trunk and then shut the trunk and I was like,
oh,
"Oh man." And then with the house, it was a misunderstanding. I thought the wife had the keys. We're all leaving the house. I shut the door. I'm like, "Oh, we need to go back in for something." And we didn't put the spare key out yet. We had
mm.
just got the locks changed, so we had to pop open the screens and mess up the screen. So now the screen doesn't sit right in the window. But yeah, like you said, it's a whole like life-changing experience. It's like I got stuff I gotta go do.
Hmm.
And it's like almost like a pride thing, like because you feel just so dumb. Like, what a dumb little inconvenience, you know?
Why did I do that? Yeah, it's always at the worst moment. It's like I'm
Yep.
already late, and now I'm gonna
Yep.
be another 20, 30 minutes late because of this mess.
Yep, for sure. All right, man. So I want to tell you about, Fueled by Weird. It's kind of the concept where, the things that you're into, your hobbies, your interests, all the stuff, that you like to do, it makes you who you are and it fuels your weird. So
Mhm.
what are some of the things that you're into?
Barry Gordy's The Last Dragon. My I don't know what it is with me and my obsession with this movie, but I call it a perfect film. Okay,
Okay.
there's this movie called Barry Gordy's The Last Dragon, right? It stars a character called Bruce Leroy. Um, you know, and that's a nickname that's given to him by the people in town because he's a black. His real name is Leroy Green,
Sure.
but he's in the community with black people, and we always want to give people nicknames. So,
Okay.
they call him Bruce Leroy, and it's just this like '80s black exploitation film. But to me, it is a perfect representation of what um, movies and art are supposed to do for their audience, right? It's a movie about finding the master in yourself.
Sure.
It's a movie about not following the crowd and being your own person. And I just love it so much. And it's a movie that I forced my kids and my wife to watch multiple times because they just don't get it. They just
Yeah.
don't get why I love it so much.
Yeah.
But it's just it's seeped this way into almost everything that I create in some way or another, whether it's the theme of finding a master in yourself, or it's the villain show enough, one of the other villain Eddie Arcadia, or Bruce Leroy himself. It's just one of those things that always I can always go back to and get inspiration, to continue making art and things like that. So that's one of the things, man. There's a whole as a nerd, I'm sure there's a whole bunch of things that can inspire you in different ways, but that's one of the main ones for me.
For sure. Yeah, like I said, we've been friends for a while, so I've seen you go back and forth on with people on the internet about how
Right.
awesome this movie is to the point where I've never seen it, but I've definitely added it to my personal watch list, and I'm actually gonna try and knock it out this weekend. Uh,
Yes, please, man. Let me know what you think. As somebody
oh, sure.
who's never seen it, like watching it in 2024, it's a dated film,
Oh,
but everything in the 80s was. But if you can just enjoy it for what it is, man, I think you would like it. I think you would
uh,
like
I'm excited. Yeah, like anytime I see any reference to it, I always have to make sure to tag you to be like, hey, just let
it.
you know
Right.
what's up. So yeah, I'm pretty excited. I'm excited to finally check that one out.
Absolutely.
So, sir, before we get into the nitty-gritty of this, I want to ask you, you've what I really like about you, Danny, is, you're a writer, and that's, you're
Hmm.
make that very clear that you're a writer, and you're a great writer at that. I just need to put that out there.
I appreciate that.
What I like that you've done is, if you've got a certain aspect that you can't do and don't know how to do, you go and you try to learn how to do it. You've kind of graduated to becoming a letterer, and you've gotten into starting to learn how to draw, which I think is very admirable. The fact that you're not going to let something that you don't know how to do stop you from doing something, and that's really cool. That's really something that a lot of more people should try to take on themselves. And one thing that I really like that what you've done is you've been able to find how to make TikTok work for you. I know a lot of people have tried, and they've been able to do it with, different levels of success. But I don't post on TikTok. I'm one of those people that has a TikTok account, but I stalk and do a lot of TikTok scrolling. I've noticed that yours always knock it out of the park. You're super successful. I want to talk about how you were able to manage to take the beast known as TikTok and kind of make it work for you.
Well, I'll tell you, man, it's actually because I felt like I missed out on Twitch, right?
Okay.
My kids, and I always give the credit to my kids on this because especially my son DJ, I would notice because we're all gamers in this house. We love to play video games. Me,
Yeah.
all four of my children love video games, and I bought them. They all have Nintendo Switches right now. We got a PlayStation 4 in the house, that we all play on. And I would notice when Twitch was first coming out that they would all just be watching people play video games. And I was like, I don't understand why you would watch people play when I will literally buy you the game.
Yep.
Or I would buy them the game and they would watch somebody else play it instead of, experiencing the game for themselves. And I was
Yeah.
like, I don't understand, you know. But then, months later, um I saw all these people blowing up on Twitch. It's really a thing. It's a new genre of, I don't know if you call it um voyeurism. I don't know what it's called, but just watching people, play games and react to things and all kinds of stuff on there. And I felt like I missed the boat because that's something I would have enjoyed doing if I would have just looked at my kids and said, yo, let's give it a shot. We could have been the Twitch family. I mean, we could
Yeah.
have been the family that played games and we could be FGTV right now, you know.
Yeah.
Um, so when TikTok came along and I saw them paying that same attention to it, I saw them doing the dances and sharing all these videos and stuff. I said, you know what? I'm gonna try it. I'm gonna try to understand what it is that they're doing. Got me a TikTok account, and I was like, yo, this is funny. This is the kind of stuff that I like to do. I like to make little videos. I like to make little comedy skits. I
Yeah.
like to, relate something trendy to Aceblade to try to promote it. Like it's right in my wheelhouse. It's exactly what I like to do. So I just decided I was gonna try it and I enjoyed it. And because I enjoyed it, it let me continue doing it over and over again. And here we are some 3 years later. And it's been a lot, it's been very helpful for me, I'll say, for
That's
sure.
cool. And yeah, like I'm kind of like with you, and like we mentioned earlier, kids these days are a totally different breed, and
Right.
stuff they do now is nothing we'd ever imagined doing when we were kids. And you know, my youngest does the same thing. She'll sit and she'll watch people play video
Mhm.
games for hours, and I don't get it. And to a point, I kind of still don't get it, but there's certain parts of it I do get. Like if I'm playing a video game and I get stuck somewhere and I just can't figure out what to do, I know I can always Google what the game is, what I'm doing, and I can find gameplay of someone doing it so I can see how to do it, which if you look at it that way, it kind of makes sense, that's kind of super helpful. But a lot of people will look at it, like, how, and I don't watch a lot of sports myself. I watch pro wrestling, but like
Mhm.
for people who watch basketball or racing or whatever, that's kind of the same thing for them when
Yeah,
they'll go on and watch someone play a video game. It's, because esports is becoming, a bigger thing, and, it's just
absolutely.
another sport to watch.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's absolutely true. I didn't even think about it like that.
Yeah.
Um, I could go play basketball, but I definitely would prefer to watch LeBron play. Definitely would prefer
Right.
to watch LeBron play over going to play myself.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think it's awesome, man. And now looking back on it, like one of my favorite things to just randomly do is I'll go on and watch speed runs. I don't know if you know speed
Oh, yeah,
runs.
yeah.
Yeah, I'll go and search for like speed runs of like some of my favorite games. Back in the day, like I was
Yeah.
just watching a Super Mario 64 speed run,
Yeah.
and it kind of gives me the nostalgia of playing the game, but at the same time, these people are elite at playing. Like
Yeah.
they all the little secrets, they know every little detail to
Yeah.
do it as quick as possible, and that kind of stuff is entertaining. So that's something that I was wrong about, that I missed out on, and I was like, I'm not gonna miss out with TikTok. So just
Yeah, I get it.
decided to jump on it and stick with it.
Yeah, I actually have one of my favorite podcasters did speaking of games from when we were kids. He was speed running Legend of Zelda: A Link to the Past for Super
Oh
Nintendo.
man, that's a
And
top, that's a top 10 game all time,
oh,
man.
for sure, dude. That's one of my favorite games ever. It's hard
Yeah,
as hell, but
yeah.
I love it so much. I can't explain why I love it, but I just do. And he
Yeah.
was playing it as a speed run where he changed his character to be Guy Fieri, and he would die with one hit. So
Oh
that
wow.
kind of that kind of made the speed run a little more interesting. Every time he got hit once, he would die and have to start over.
I
And
would die very quickly every
right.
every time.
And it
That's
even got to the
all.
point where he started playing with his brothers, where the three of them would all control one character, where they went and revisited Super Mario World. And that it sounds so boring, but they're pretty funny. So it was very entertaining to watch the three of them control Mario to play Super Mario World. And
Wow.
plus it was a way to kind of to re-experience an old game from our childhood. It was kind of
Right.
it was fun.
Yeah, yeah. I'm down with it, man. I just, I really wish I didn't miss out on that. But here we are today. So
Yeah, I mean, and it's it's kind of like, I'm guessing we're pretty close in age
mhm.
where, it's something from our generation where it's like, these kids these days doing this weird stuff that we just don't understand. But like I did and like you did, once you take kind of like you go to it with an open mind, it kind of makes sense as to, it's the exact same thing that we're doing. It's just a little bit different.
Yeah,
So it kind of it's good to have that understanding.
yeah, for sure.
So, on the topic of kind of going out of the realm of the normal, um, with TikTok, another thing that you've done that I think is really cool is you started your own comic or you've opened your own store.
Mm.
Let's talk a little bit about the store and how that kind of came to be.
Man, the store was I one good thing about me and one bad thing about me is sometimes I'll just get an idea, and I'm never afraid to try something,
Sure.
you know. I will give it, the good college effort, or I guess you say I'll give it a good shot. And if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. And that's kind of what happened with the shop is we opened a shop, and really my desire was my wife is a hairstylist. She has run a hair salon for 12 years now, so she's always out there working, and I help her as much as I can, but we don't really get to spend a lot of time together when she's working in the evenings. So
Yeah.
the spot beside her opened up, and I was like, I want to, I've always wanted to open a brick and mortar, you know
Yeah.
But of course, comic book stores are not very profitable. First of all, it wasn't necessarily in a place with a lot of foot traffic. So I knew that we had to have something that brought people to it. So we decided to do an escape room. We were like, hey, we love escape rooms. People, and
Yeah.
there's nothing to do in this area that we are. So we built a comic book store, our comic book store, with an escape room. And in the escape room, you got to rescue Aceblade. So I'm like, yo, this is a good idea. I like this.
Yeah.
Um, and once we actually got into it, we built the escape room, we did the puzzles, there was the story, you got a free comic if you left, and all this good stuff. And it was working, it was working for about let's say the first 6 months, we're getting everything built in there. And then that next 6 months, we were killing it, and then stuff started to break. People started to break things. And I didn't want to take the plunge into hiring employees. Like, we were already not back to where we were barely breaking even. And I was like, man, I can't be here as often as I want to. COVID was still a thing. It was crazy. So um you know I think it was a good experience. I called it like the reverse Disney effect, where
Okay.
Disney will put out all these movies with these princesses. They put out, Cinderella, and then they say, hey, come to our theme park, spend $1,000 at our theme park, and you get to meet Cinderella. I was doing the opposite, where I was like, hey, come spend $50 at our escape room and meet Aceblade, and then check out some of these comics on your way out. And it was very fun. It was very fun while we had it open, but sadly we had to close it a couple months ago. And but now I got another idea to do a mobile thing. And I'll be sharing some stuff on that pretty soon.
Okay. Fair enough. Fair enough. That's awesome. Well, speaking of Ace Blade, and we kind of talked about we talked a little about you being a writer. I kind of want to dial it back and I want to find out, what was it initially that got you interested in writing in the first place?
Oh man, I think I always just like telling stories. And it's weird because my dad, if you ever meet my dad, this dude will tell a story about anything and like instantly captivate whoever is in the room, right? My dad
Wow.
is just an amazing storyteller. He can tell a story about, the day he got out of prison, or the day he was going, he could tell a story about chasing wasps, beating a wasp nest from under his house, and it just be the best thing that you ever heard. And then on the other hand, my mom is an artist. She went to school and studied fine arts, and now she's an educator. So I feel like just a bit of both of them crafted me into this person who loves art and who loves storytelling. And writing has always been something that has been kind of expressive to me. Like, I like to draw and I like to just write stories. But it wasn't until I met a good friend of mine, Christoph Hollers, and he said, he was like, hey man, I had this I had this idea back in high school for this purple vigilante named Ace Blade. And I was like, what? That's crazy. I love superheroes. Let me try to write something with it. And then
Yeah.
the next day I came back with a whole notebook of like ideas
Oh,
and stuff
wow.
like that. And he was like, hey man, like you should like take it easy. Like, what in the world is going on? I was just playing around, but
Yeah.
started developing it. And then I ended up going to Iraq. I ended up getting deployed to Iraq and writing more stuff. And he enjoyed it. He was like, he couldn't he couldn't write and develop a character like that, but I had already done that work for him. So I was like, hey man, we should co-create this character, co-own this character. And then he took me to a comic book convention, which was probably the worst decision he ever made, because because I was like, bro, we could actually make this into a comic book.
Yeah.
I had just wrote stories before. I was like, we could actually make this into a comic book ourselves, hire somebody to do this. And here we are 8 books later. So I just love storytelling. I just love superheroes and underdog stories, and inspiring people. I think I love stories that inspire me. Like I said with The Last Dragon, I love stories that inspire me, and I just want to tell stories that inspire other people.
That's awesome. Well, first of all, I've never got a chance to tell you this officially, but as a serviceman, thank you for your service. I'm just gonna go ahead and speak for everyone and just thank you for your service. It's very much appreciated.
No, thank
Um,
you.
You're welcome. I had heard a lot of stories, I had heard bits and pieces of you tell the story about when you got, you know, commissioned over to Iraq. And, that's kind of where Ace Blade really started going. So it was really cool to finally hear it in person. Um,
Mhm.
so what was it specifically that, with you writing all of this stuff for Ace Blade, what was it that made you now? I know that there's a novel for it and there's comics for it, but what made you specifically shift toward comics instead of maybe a different medium?
I think that I think comic books are just the most accessible and like you can do the most in comics with the I'm not gonna say with the least amount of money. Like I could write a novel
Yeah,
and it not cost pretty much anything. I can just write the story and put it out, right?
yeah.
But a story like this with super villains and powerful people and greedy corporations, it's almost meant to be told in a comic book. It's almost meant to be told in this genre. And I'm one of those people who, like, the most rewarding part of what I do is seeing what I wrote become art, become a piece of tangible art that you can see and hold in your hand. That's one of the most rewarding parts of this process for me. So I think, like I said, when I went to Heroes Con in Charlotte, North Carolina, back in 2012, I was like, wow, like there are people who do this. Like there are people who know this process and know how to do this. I believe that we could do it too. And again, it was just the inspiration. I was looking at the artist tables. I was looking at, you know, um, people's indie books beside Marvel and DC titles, and I was like, man, this is something that we could actually do. So, um, then it just became the collaboration, the effort of talking to people and finding out what it would take for them to draw. What would it take for you to draw this character that I have in my brain? And most of the time it's just the name your price. Hey, $100 and I'll do it. And we can make that happen. So I think it was just natural for a superhero story to become a comic book. I don't think I was, of course, I want to make films someday. I love making little short indie films, but I couldn't
Yeah.
do it. I couldn't do it right. Um, I couldn't make a film, the way that I could make a comic right now. I couldn't do it to the level of a professional, um, like I could back then with the comic book. So just figured that it was something that I could do, and just the life that I wanted to live. And I didn't know how hard it would actually be, but we're figuring it out.
That's good. Yeah, there's nothing more like, I've created a few characters myself and I've only been able to get a couple actually
Mm,
drawn. And yeah, there's nothing like that feeling where you see that character that from your brain for the first time, like tangible, you can touch it and hold it and you can show people. It's a
yeah,
really cool feeling.
absolutely, absolutely, I love it.
All right, so we've talked quite a bit about the purple vigilante, Ace Blade, the Vegas vigilante. We're going to
Hmm.
get into it. You've got a new Kickstarter out right now with issue number 8. For those that don't know about Ace Blade, and which I don't imagine there's many left that don't know about Ace Blade because you're a master marketer and get the word out there, let everybody know.
Um,
For the people that don't know, let's talk a little bit about who Ace Blade is.
Absolutely, man. I always tell people, and it took me forever to get this pitch together, so I'm gonna see if I do it right.
Okay.
Um, Imagine you believe you're the best fighter in the world, right? But the only way you can prove it is to fight up against supervillains in in this city that needs protection. And they have all these amazing superpowers, but you don't have any, right? So Ace Blade is a story about a man who believes in himself enough to help other people, and again, it always goes back to inspiration. And the story that I'm telling right now with Ace Blade 6 through 10 is the story of him inspiring the people around him. I shouldn't say this because it's really the finale of the story. It's really the finale of issue 10. But Ace Blade is in a city, Vegas City, where everything around him is corrupt. The police are corrupt, the politicians are corrupt, the press is corrupt, the the prisons are corrupt. Everything is corrupted, and it's starting to affect the people around him. Starting to affect the people in the community. And the only way that he can fight against all of those things is to inspire people, is to be an inspiration to the people around him to fight against that corruption that's coming from every angle. So, what do you do when when there's no hope? You have to be the hope, and that's kind of what Aceblade is about. So, yeah,
That's awesome. Be the change you want to see.
that's right. That's absolutely right.
Nice. So, when you were coming up with the initial ideas for the Ace Blade character, what were some of the inspirations you drew on to form who Ace Blade is today?
Um, you ever heard of this character called Goku?
I have.
I was, and I am a huge Dragon Ball Z fan, and it's a joke now, it's a meme now, but Goku always has this thing where he wants to fight people at their best, right?
Yeah.
He believes in himself, and he wants to prove that he's the best fighter, and sometimes he'll put other people in danger just to prove that to himself. So to me, I always kind of use that as Ace Blade. Like, you have to find a balance to where, okay, yes, I want to prove this to myself, but also, am I putting the people around me in danger? By doing this, am I? What was it in the Avengers where um Jarvis was saying, "Hey, we're attracting more people. The more power that you have, the more villains are going to come and try to challenge that power." So Ace Blade always kind of resists that power. Um, just to keep that balance. But that's one of those things that I get from, like I said, Goku, the Marvel superhero movies that we see, especially Captain America. Captain America has that kind of true north about
Yeah.
him. Of course, Bruce Leroy and Barry Gordy's The Last Dragon. And there's some more. There's some more, but those are kind of big three.
Nice. Um, so with the Kickstarter going on right now, I noticed that usually with your past Kickstarters, you always have some big thing that you always offer. And this one is no different. Let's take a little bit of time to talk about what you got going on with this Kickstarter.
Man, and first of all, shout out to everybody who's already placed on the Kickstarter. Man,
Yeah,
we had
2 hours, man. That's impressive.
we had exactly four action figures that we made. Like, the last campaign we did statues, and the statues came out great, but they didn't ship well. You know what I'm saying? So,
Sure.
like, we shipped to people, we had to package them, and we had some people, who had things chipped, and we had to glue back together and stuff like that. But this time, we the co-creator of Ace Blade, Christoph Hollers, he actually, you know, put together figures from different sets. Like, he bought like 10 different figures and put together Ace Blade, and then fashioned the arm blades and made it
Wow,
a real articulating figure
that's cool.
that you could pose and play with, and it's got the two swords and everything. So this time, these action figures are like legit, like, they're so cool. And if I had mine right now, I would show it to you, but it's getting some stop motion work done right now. So we'll
Nice.
look out for that in the future too.
Right on.
But yeah, that's the big thing in this campaign, the action figures. We had a couple of pop dolls left over from the last campaign that we put out on here. Um, but super fortunate, man, that people wanted them, and they pledged. That first day they were all gone, and it helped us hit the goal. It helped us hit that goal in 2 hours. So, yeah, them action figures, man. We're definitely going to try to figure out how to make more if we can get the parts that we need, and offer it after the campaign. But yeah, I'm super excited about that.
Right on. So can we tell a little bit about, what's the story going on in Ace Blade number 8?
Yeah, absolutely. So, like I said, in the Cream series, the Cash Rules Everything Around Me arc, it's all about Terrell Durham, which is Ace Blade's alter identity. Um, he's finding out that the 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 press is kind of corrupted with cash by money. They're all about clicks, and they want to get the flashy stories, but the little small things that are happening in communities are getting ignored. And then also the politicians and the prisons are all working together to kind of and what has happened is one of his students has been caught up in that system. So
Yeah.
he's doing what he can as Terrell Durham and as Aceblade to help the student, but he can't do it by himself. He's finding that he can't do it by himself. So he's so frustrated at this point that he's gonna try to use those systems against themselves. And that's kind of where issue 8 starts, trying to reach out to the press and trying to kind of use his growing celebrity in Vegas City as Ace Blade to use these systems effectively and try to use them for good.
That's awesome. I'm super stoked to check it out.
Hey man, thank
So,
you.
you mentioned, you've got kind of things planned up through issue 10. What do you have planned for the future? Do you see, is there an end point for Ace Blade? Do you kind of just want to tell Ace Blade stories forever?
Yeah, we actually have like um we actually have like 100 issues that we want to do.
Oh, wow.
But it starts with just being able to make these books continually. Thankfully I got Brian J. Lambert to he's editing our stories right now. And he's keeping us on track. So right now, we're doing the Cream series, Cash Rules Everything Around Me. And then after that, we're gonna do a series called Ace Blade versus the 10. And it's gonna be wild. It's gonna be wild. We're gonna introduce a new villain called Eureka, who actually was created for the escape room. This villain, Eureka, and I'm just excited. I'm excited about it. But we got to get through these 10 first. I told my wife, spend a long time just putting money into these things. I got to be able to make the money back, and but thankfully we're doing pretty good right now, so we can keep making these books. I'm fairly confident we'll be able to get to book 10, but then after that it'll be Ace Blade versus the 99, and then Villain Season 2 will be in there, and then I got a crossover in there somewhere. I got a crossover with Hot Shot from Freestyle Comics. So
Oh, nice.
he and I are doing a 2-issue crossover that will be canon to our storyline. So it'll be, I want to say book 15 and 16 of Mike's, and it'll be probably 11 and 12 of my series. So it'll come before Ace Blade versus the 99.
Nice. So what else you got planned for the future after this Kickstarter, Danny? That you can
Man,
talk about. That you can talk about.
you know me, I'm team spoiler alert. I'm letting it go. I'm letting it go. I'm telling everybody for a
Yes,
bit.
sir.
No, we're like I said, we got a little mobile situation that we're working on now. Me and my wife, we bought a truck to do more mobile events and things like that. So
Nice.
hopefully I'll be out in the community throughout the rest of the year once it starts to cool down. Going to more comic book conventions, and I'm working on Ballad of the Black Rose issue 2. Morgan Iverson, I'm working on with Morgan Iverson on the Lumberjacks graphic novel. Working with Bequest Studios on a couple of projects also, and just all kinds of stuff. I'm actually writing. I don't know how this will go because I'm not sure if I'm even supposed to do it, but I'm writing a Green Lantern story that I'm going to
Oh,
pitch
nice.
to DC. It's not licensed. I'm not
Right,
supposed to,
right.
but I'm going to write it, and I'm going to find somebody at DC who will green light it and get it made. That's my goal anyway. I'm going to
Oh,
write this
man.
story. I'm going to take it to somebody at DC. I'm going to all these shows and say, "Hey man, I got a great idea for a Green Lantern story. Will y'all make it?" And that's just going to be how I approach it. And if they don't take it, then I'll just have to make it into something that fits into my universe.
Oh, dude, that Green Lantern is like top five for me.
Yeah, yeah,
Oh man, that's
yeah.
awesome. That's so exciting. And I would be, I have to ask because it's one of my favorite shows.
Mhm.
Super Shorts podcast.
Oh man,
You guys got more planned?
we do. So we're in the process now of taking the show to Patreon, uploading all the episodes on there. But yes, we got a season 5 coming.
Nice.
It's gonna be more episodic than the past 2 seasons. The past 2 seasons we try to do like a full season that was connected, but season 5 we're gonna go back to the episodic structure and go back and forth between myself, Morgan, Ro Lamb is gonna be writing with us, and
Oh,
Kyron
nice.
Yeah, Kyron Silver's gonna be writing too. So
Very
I'm gonna have
cool.
more. And I got a crazy idea to kind of do a Elseworlds where I invite other writers to come in and write stories, and then we put them in as a season of the podcast. But I'm not quite sure about that yet. I'm not quite sure about that yet.
Okay, that's cool. That's a really cool idea.
Thank you. I think it would be fun, but Morgan is telling me not to do it. But you know me, sometimes I just do things. So we'll
Gotta
see.
do it, man. Don't let Morgan rain on the
Yeah,
parade.
yeah, man. Come on now.
You gotta try it because if like you can't live with the what if, man.
Yeah, exactly. I think people would enjoy writing. I think there's enough content out there for Ace Blade for people to know these characters and that. And
Yeah,
I know there are other writers who want to write stories.
for sure.
And we actually had in villain season, we had somebody do a little stinger on the end of one of the stories, and it was really good. Like it was perfect. So
Yeah,
uh, I think it would be cool. So I might end up doing it.
that's cool. And yeah, just for people who don't know, the Super Shorts podcast, a bunch of superhero short stories, something that's near and dear to my heart as someone who is trying to get back to writing superhero short stories. So it's a very cool podcast. Check it out wherever you get your podcasts.
Thank you. Absolutely.
Now, before we go, I want to ask you, because I like to ask this of everybody, is there any advice you'd give to any up and coming creatives about wanting to get out there and do their thing?
Um, man, I always like to tell people let um don't let all the good reasons to stop you because there are a lot of good reasons to not do this.
For sure.
um there's finances, there's making time, the economy, all the everything that's happening in the world right now. But people need art, people need stories, like I said, to inspire them. These stories are not just throwaways, they are things that matter to people. As we can see with like Star Wars right now, people, these stories matter to people. And you might create something that inspires somebody to do something great with their lives, that inspires somebody to make better decisions. And I think that it's worth doing if you can figure it out. So just don't let all of the good reasons not to do it stop you from doing it.
That's great advice. Definitely great advice. Now, Danny, to keep up on all the stuff you're doing, everything that's coming, where can people stay up to date with you? Where can people find you?
Best place to go is our website, fourthwallpros.com. Of course, we're now on Patreon. If you search for Ace Blade on Patreon, you'll find us. But then on social media, it's at the Ace Blade on all social media platforms, um, mostly TikTok these days, but I'm on all of them. So
Very cool. Now, to keep up with interviews like this, all sorts of other cool interviews with great creators, make sure you check out Fueled by Weird on all the podcast apps, wherever you get your podcasts. You can check us out on YouTube at Fueled by Weird. And now you can check us out on the Spotlight Media GA app, along with other great shows, including the Nerdy Man Room Show with Hassel and Monster. You can follow me on social medias right now at Instagram and Facebook, just at Fueled by Weird. Questions, comments, you want to be on the show, you want to discuss, have you locked yourself out of the house? Email me at fuelbyweird@gmail.com. The music for the show is by Polygon Horizon. They're a great band. Go check them out. The song is called Pizza Force. It's a fantastic song. And I want to get a special shout out to our sponsor, the Zone Collectibles in Tifton, Georgia, your one-stop shop for comics, collectibles, and more. Ace Blade 8 is now on Kickstarter for a couple more weeks. Go make sure you check it out before you miss it. Get yourself some good stuff. If you like the show, please leave a review and tell your friends because word of mouth is our friend. And remember, kids, life's too short to be normal, so stay weird. Danny, thanks so much for joining me today, man.
I love it, man. Thank you for having me.